This video will save you from those awful starts in Stellaris, and will make your runs as consistent as possible. From tips to apply before you even click play for the first time, to the importance of hydroponic base, these tips will help your empire completely snowball, helping you accomplish your goals. These are as general as possible, so will help any empire you may start as. To start off, we're going to come over to government policies and edicts, and have a look at our policy. The first one we can look at is diplomatic stance. Most empires start on expansionist, which seems good from the outside, with outpost build cost reduction 10%, which lowers the alloys and influence needed to build an outpost. You also get colony development speed 50%, but border friction, which doesn't matter when you're expanding. This is decent, but isolationist could be a great alternative. The main thing we want to focus on here is the unity, as the other modifiers really don't matter in the early game. Unity is essential to get your traditions up and running as fast as possible, or recruiting extra leaders. You can either switch over straight away if you're doing a unity rush, or don't mind the extra cost of alloys and influence, but most people tend to stick with expansionists to get their guaranteed colonies, like we can see here, then switch over isolationists within the first few years. This can also apply to economic policy, where most are mixed economy with no benefits. Civilian can give you more consumer goods and less alloys, which could help if you're science rushing or need a lot of consumer goods, or militarist economy, which means you get more alloys, less consumer goods. It's helpful if you're going for a military builder. Now, one of the most important tips in this game is how to actually expand and explore properly. Now, we're going to talk about guaranteed habitable worlds. If you don't know what this is, it's usually set to 2 at the start of your game, which is essentially how many habitable planets of the same planet class as your homeworld are guaranteed to spawn close to your starting system, around 5 systems. Now, I always play with 2. This is really important. You don't want to be limited to just 1 planet. So from my start here, you can see there's 2 planets on the screen. If we hover over them, we have a continental size 22 and a desert world 16. So the continental, as you can see, is our capital, which means we've only seen 1 of our guaranteed habitable worlds. So the other one will start 5 systems around our capital. Now, always survey your planets first, but once you've surveyed these planets, you can use explore instead, as it's way quicker than surveying. Surveying will go to every planet and meteor, which can take a long time. As you can see, there's lots of systems here. Exploring, however, just goes to the system. So exploring instead will skip over the system, go to it, and then go to the next system. This means you can actually see what's in front of you way faster than if you were exploring. This can let you find your guaranteed, and you can queue it up by holding shift and right click. You can also use auto explore by turning off survey and just doing auto explore system. You can also use your military ship to do just this, but if they find a hostile, unlike the science ship, which will just retreat, they'll try and fight it. So you need to be careful. So once you find a planet, I usually survey back so that my construction ship can catch up, or you can get a second science ship to then do the surveying while another one's exploring. I like to focus on planets and then choke points. As for example, we wouldn't need to survey and expand on Brynus because it's trapped off by the Goo Logum, and we can do that later on. You really got to race to try and do it. To prove my point, using these same spawns and start, on the left, I only use surveying, and on the right, only exploring, then surveying planets. This was for the first 5 years of the game, and I built 2 science ships in each. As you can see here, exploring, we could see so much more. Now, in both, we did manage to find our guaranteed habitables, but it could have gone a completely way. Exploring gives you a more consistent start by almost guaranteeing finding your 2 guaranteed habitables and choke point. You've also found a bunch of people by exploring. It just accelerates the game a lot more, meaning you can beat the AIs to specific choke points or planet. Now on to the next tip, where it's going to help you build up your empire much faster than it usually is in the early game, and that is utilizing the market. As you may know, the market can give you resources that you're currently producing. This will cost you energy, or you can sell to get energy. You can also do monthly trading, and this is what we're going to utilize. Whenever you buy or sell, the price will change, and that is due to inflation, laws and supply, or whatever economic major would tell you. However, using monthly trades, you can manipulate the inflation and the rebound of the prices to not have to pay any extra, as the price will reset back to the standard at the end of the month. Now, I always forget these numbers. They change in some updates. That's why I've got it pinned in the Stellaris channel in my Discord, so I can always check it out, and so can you all. So join it, link in the description. We also host games. You can find people to play, or just chat about Stellaris and any wacky builds you're doing or stupid things you find. Great place to be, no bias. Now, the specific numbers are 42 to buy for minerals and food, and 64 sell. Alloys is 10 to buy and 16 to sell. And by the way, you can use Control, Shift, or Control Shift to change how much you're clicking for. That's just an extra tip that I'll throw in because why not? Consumer goods are 21 to buy and 32 to sell. I don't have them because I don't have the resources, but crystal, gas, and motes are 4 to buy and 6 to sell, and Gro and dark matter are 2 to buy and 3 to sell. This does stop working when the galactic market is set up, as everyone's buying and selling affects the price, but while you have your internal market, this works. This will help you build star bases, colony ships, districts, and building way faster to get you to snowball even faster. That's what all these tips are for, to get to that point where you can just start snowballing, outpace everyone in the galaxy. Now, speaking of colony ships, you can come over to your shipyard and build them before you even have a system. This, combined with monthly buying and selling at the start of the game, means you can get colony ship out way faster by serving your guaranteed and your construction ship there ready to construct and waiting for the resources. As you can see, we can now build the colony ship before we've even surveyed. This takes a year to build, which is quite a long time, especially early game. So while this is serving and takes about a year, you can build it, and once it's about built, you can send it over to the system because it also takes about 200 days to go from one system to another. They're really slow. Survey's complete. We can construct here, which doesn't take too long, and by the time that finishes, we can park them above the colony and get the quickest colony up as you possibly can. And there it is, in 2 years and 4 months. You could probably get it even quicker. So this is combining the previous tip and this for the best start you can try and get. Now, with traditions, there are a lot of options, so I'm going to break it down to the best ones early game, in my opinion, and quite statistical. For me, prosperity is one of the best traditions early game. You might be thinking, why not expansion or discovery? Well, prosperity, when you adopt, gives you more mining station output. That's all right, just a few bonus resources. Standard construction templates is insane. Buildings and districts have their cost reduction by 10%, which adds up because you're going to be doing a lot of building, and also increases build speed by 25%. This means you can get your buildings up even quicker, and if you have planets like this with lots of clerks working, which don't matter, you want to build more important buildings like research lab or energy or alloys, so you can get those resources even quicker. You also get a reduction in upkeep of these buildings and districts for the rest of the game. It's decent, but specialist pop output is insane because more alloys, more research, more unity, best resources you can get. Upkeep from jobs, very good too. And then housing doesn't really matter, but it will be nice late game. Once you finish prosperity, you also get resources from jobs. More resources means more buildings, means you can expand more. An ascension perk, which is fine. You can go expansion. It's decent. Colony development speed is nice. Pop growth speed and additional pops is nice, but there's so many good traditions. Prosperity works later game. Expansion kind of drops off. Discovery is it's all right. I used to go it all the time. It's not that good. Survey speed is decent, but you want to use your exploring. Maybe if you're tech rushing, it's decent, but just having resources and more efficient resources from prosperity throughout the entire game is key. So you've just got your first colony, and they're working colonist jobs, producing some food, but they're just paying for themselves, and amenities doesn't really matter this early on. What you want to do is come over to the population screen to expand workers and decrease job priority of colonists so they work other jobs. You want to make sure that you do have above 50% stability, but you want them to work other jobs. We're now producing 14 energy, which is going to help your economy massively in the game. Colonist jobs, useful once your planet starts building up, but really quite useless. Amenities are better earned via hollow theaters, or even a clerk job is better than a colonist. Just don't work it. And also remember to use designations, but that's probably for another video where I delve into planet tips. Now, this tip is very meta driven. If you enjoy events and random outcomes, ignore this one. The worst possible precursor you can get is the cultist event chain. You'll be attacked by a ship, and once defeated, you'll be prompted to investigate. Do not do this. This will spawn hostile fleets and systems around you, stopping you to expand and explore, like in previous mentioned tips. You really don't want to block yourself in. It's so bad. Just don't explore. This one is about anomalies. So anomalies are great. They give you a bunch of lore. And obviously, if you want to do them, go for it. But me personally, and probably is for the best in terms of metagaming, you want to ignore these anomalies. Anomaly rewards scale based on your science. So it's not like you're missing out on anything. They also take your scientists away from serving and exploring. And they're not going anywhere. Once you've fully expanded, then you can come back and do the anomalies. At least that's what I do. As well as excavation sites or even astral rifts. Now, you might have been seeing that I've been following my construction ship behind my ship that's serving and not improving any resources. This is on purpose. You want planets and choke points before improving resources. Obviously, if you've got a bit of spare time, you could come over and just, improve a resource or two while you're waiting to know where to expand to. But also don't fill in choke points that you block off. On a star here, I don't need to go and expand over yet because we're pushing out and trying to explore elsewhere. This is on my survey save that I showed you earlier, so ignore why these science ships are just purely surveying. Now, one of the most important tips is star bases. Star bases are so important, and they're not just for defense. If you see the hydroponic farming tech in society research, take it. This gives you a bay that produces 10 food with an upkeep of 1 energy. And this is without working a single job, so it's essentially free resources. This means you can just stop working food jobs, or even if you have an excess, you can just sell them to the max that we talked about before. The energy that you get back for the food basically pays for the hydro bay. If you're a robot, you can also build solar panels, which makes your star bases even better at producing of resources. I like to just build star bases everywhere I can, and you can also activate Fortify the Border. This gives your starbase upgrade speed by 50% and an extra 2 starbase capacity. You can just go ham with upgrading starports like we're doing here, and then building a bunch of hydro bays. This will get your economy up and running so that you can just accomplish all the goals you want and dominate the galaxy. This is purely to get started in the game. If you'd like a video on the best tips for planets, let me know in the comments. Now, robots are unique in their own way, so I made a video purely focusing on them. So click here to watch it and dominate the galaxy with your robot empire.